How you feeling, guys? How you feeling? Winter meetings come and gone? Well, there is still the Rule 5 to get through, but the Marlins have made pretty much next to no moves apart from a backup catcher added to AAA. The winter meetings for the Marlins have not been hot. Nevertheless, has the groundwork been laid for future deals to be made? That is the question on today's episode. And I'm delighted to welcome back Shaun Barrett, the UK GOAT, on today's Locked On Marlins.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings from England and welcome to Locked On Marlins. Guys, this is your daily Marlins podcast. I, of course, am your host, Peter Pratt. Hit me up on Twitter at MiamiMarlins_UK. Subscribe to the pod, free and available everywhere, episodes a week. If you are wondering, yes, there is a YouTube channel. And yes, Shaun Barrett is back. And that beard is looking sensational. Shaun Barrett, how are we doing?
I'm doing good, Pete. It's been a rough couple of days in the Marlins world, hasn't it been?
Yes.
So hopefully we can get a bit of positivity out today. And I was glad that you checked in with me yesterday. I'm still waiting on Kim to check in on me as well, but I'm sure it's coming. She's checking in on everyone.
It's coming, baby. She's just checked out the hotel, as told me. So exited the hotel, checked out. You're right, mate. Marlins Twitter burning down at the moment. Burning down. We're all sitting here waiting for moves to be made. Craig Mish flew out there especially, anticipating moves to be made. Craig flies back home with just a pack of M&Ms for comfort and no stories to break. So underwhelming, I would say, from a Marlins perspective. More generally, though, mate, what I must say is I think the winter meetings, they haven't disappointed. There has been a ton of action. And probably the best and funniest element was Arson Judge going to the Giants that no longer is, and now he's going to the Yankees where he was always expected to go. But mate, it's been a wild few days. Like free agency wise, there's been a lot of money spent too, right?
Absolutely. I think there's been more money spent on a couple of players than the whole purchasing price of the Marlins. So yeah, a lot of money moved hands, that's for sure. But yeah, I mean, it is a case of it's been for a Marlins fan, it's been pretty much a nothing winter meetings, no trades, no signings. But I don't think the only thing that I am holding, on to is the fact that there hasn't really been a player that's been signed that I thought they would be going for anyway. I think obviously these big $300 million contracts that we could just ignore them. We know they're not happening. I think the biggest concern for Marlins fans right now is just how many moves have been made by NL East teams. The rich keep getting richer. And I spent yesterday, while the winter meetings were happening and these big numbers were being exchanged, looking at players that are available in the Rule 5 draft. So that's really where I am as a Marlins fan right now and my expectations.
That's where we're at, baby. What's been, before we dig into the Rule 5, I guess kind of dig in, but briefly touch on the Rule 5. What's been your favorite deal? I don't know if that's the right way of asking the question, but what's kind of caught your eye of all the deals that have dropped? And there's been, numerous ones and some really big ones too.
I think the Judge one is the most interesting one for me, simply because of the way the negotiations happen and the idea of Judge getting on a plane to go to San Diego. Did he really get on a plane to go to San Diego? Or was that just a ploy for them to say, look, we've been offered a 10-year, $40 million a year offer. You're at 8. I really want to be a Yankee. If you can just go to 9, I'll take it. Yeah. And, it is that case of, was there really an offer from San Diego? Was he ever going to sign there? Or was he just trying to get that extra year out of the Yankees? It's just, for me, those negotiations are always, something that I keep a keen eye on just because it's so funny to watch them bat the ball back to each other, trying to get more money on and get the negotiation sorted.
Yeah, it made sense. And the Aaron Judge situation, I think, is is an intriguing one, clearly, because he bet on himself, decided to not take that money, 10 or 215. I can't recall the number. It was in that range, right? Kind of early 200s. He decided not to take the dough, bet on himself, ended up having an MVP caliber year, and now has signed an absolutely massive deal with the Yankees. And to your point, well played on the negotiations too. The funny thing there, and that was the point I was thinking about as well, was the Padres seemingly were willing to invest nigh on $750 million to two players, got neither of them. They also, talk about the rich getting richer. The Padres not only already have Machado, they've got Soto there, they've got tons of other dudes. They're then trying to add into that. How is San Diego doing this, mate? It absolutely just bewilders me how the Padres seemingly have endless amounts of dough, no budget restrictions. They couldn't get the deals done, but that doesn't mean the spending will stop for them. But, I do love the aggressiveness of San Diego.
Absolutely, super aggressive. It reminds me of like 90s Leeds spending all this money and then it all going wrong and then go down the leagues. The advantage that San Diego have is that there is no relegation. No. And at a certain point, I mean, if you look at those deals, they are deals that if San Diego, all things went bad, could trade, because there are big market teams out there that could go out there and trade for those, and they'd probably get a bit of money. So it is interesting to see them just go all out attack, trying to get these guys. I mean, the Soto deal alone was shocking to me. The fact that they are still willing to spend all this money and go for it. It's, as a Marlins fan, you've got to be jealous, haven't you?
That is the right word, mate. We are truly jealous. The San Diego Padres just have no fear. They have no restrictions financially, making some serious moves. What about the Phils, though, mate? Let's kind of look a little bit closer to home, because for me, the Phils, they have been the most aggressive team, I would say, in the NL East. I know the Mets, have added to, but they've added to replace, where the Phils, they've really hit the upgrade button. The Trey Turner deal, I think, is a nice deal. At the back end of that contract, it will probably not look amazing. But for me, like Trey Turner, massive upgrade there. They've added a starter and a reliever too in close succession. So the Phils, off the back of a World Series appearance, they're pushing the ticket too, right?
Exactly. I mean, the whole of the NL East at the moment is this hugely competitive division that the Marlins are going to struggle with. And yeah, they've gone out and they've got Turner, they've got Walker, a decent major league starting pitcher. Matt Strahm, is a back end, not a closer, but a back end reliever. It is a case of they are willing to go out there and spend some money. Yeah. And, the Marlins at this point just can't, they can compete with that. They choose not to compete with that. And it's a concern, because we keep talking about the idea that the Marlins could just add a couple of bats and be in it. I think the only good thing in this sort of scenario is that with the way that the schedule is now structured, we are going to play less games against the NL East than they ever have done before.
Thank God.
So, that's not to say that, it's a good thing necessarily, because we beat up on the Nationals last year and we're going to get less opportunities to do that this year. But yeah, it's a concern that the division is just so strong at the moment. And at the moment, all the three teams, the Mets, the Phillies, and the Braves, are just out there spending, and the Marlins, I'm just concerned with. I always get excited as we go into spring. I don't know why, I don't know how it works out, but every year I look at the team and go, they've got a chance. This year, it's going to be a real stretch to get there, I think.
Yeah, it is. It's tough, isn't it? Before the season even starts, and you've got a rotation pack full of three potential Cy Young candidates, perhaps. We aren't even in the hunt. That's a sad state of affairs. But this is the way baseball is going right now. Something that intrigued me the other day, I saw, and I can't remember exactly what source, but it was showing, I think, the biggest growing brands, I think, in the US. And Major League Baseball was on the list. And I think that's one of the things, what we're seeing here is people are going, hey, that's an overpay. It's not an overpay. Everything's being adjusted to, the increased revenues that all these teams are seeing, and inflation and all sorts. Like, the game's just growing. The financial commitment from many of these teams is growing. Unfortunately for the Marlins, theirs isn't. That's the problem. Like, the gap is getting ever increasingly larger. And you look around and you go, all these teams, pretty much the baseline is becoming like a $300 million, a year roster. And The Marlins are making 275 mil. And the problem is to get better, they're limiting themselves, right? Because to get better, there's only really 3 ways in the main, or 4 probably. The draft well, develop what you have, trades, and that means you've got to give talent to get some, or free agents. They're the only 4 ways. They haven't really drafted that well. They've in the main, particularly on the offensive side. The development's been poor up and down the organization, apart from the pitching. The trades have been okay, but they're not playing in the free agent market. So the Marlins are limiting their ability to get better across maybe 2 or 3 of the 4 channels. If they don't spend, this is going to be an uphill task, mate, isn't it? I mean, but we have to wait and see. Let's not get too negative because they have a plan. And let me kind of flex away and let's kind of get into some Marlins stuff that did pop up over the last couple of days. Kim Ang heard an interview, and for me it was probably the most honest and aligned interview to how Marlins fans that I think I've ever heard, to be honest. All of a sudden, for me, mate, it's been the past few months, run it back vibes. Constantly run it back. Injuries, poor performance. If we're not hurt and we perform as we should, we'll be okay. They were the vibes. Now, all of a sudden, you got Kim saying, we're looking to add maybe 1, 2, 3 sticks and some bullpen help. All of a sudden, she's calling out, let's start there. That has to be music to our ears, though, right? She has to execute on it. But at least now, publicly at least, we're starting to get the messaging aligned with our thoughts too.
Yeah, I was super positive with the words that she was using, and that idea that the realization that they have that they do need multiple additional bats, and there was an implication, and I could just be reading into it, that some of those moves will be done in free agency. My biggest concern with that is after the fact. Now we've got to the point where there were players that the Marlins were apparently in on and were outbid on. It's as you said about the money. It's not just that these $300 million contracts are getting thrown out everywhere. The money is there for the second tier free agents and the low end free agents. The money that Bell got, to me, was quite a big number. I'm not a big fan of his personally. I'm not sure why. It's an irrational distaste for his numbers, I think, which is really weird. But the contract he got was a surprise to me, and it's a number for a secondary guy that I just don't think the Marlins won't compete for. I've got to stop saying won't compete for, and they are going to get bit, and because the money is out there now, they are going to consistently be, second best in those negotiations if they're not willing to spend, and I think it is a case of the bats in free agency are starting to dry up a little bit. And unless they want to go all out on a guy like Nimmo, it is going to be a case of it's going to be these minor league deals. It's going to be guys from the Rule 5 draft. It's going to be guys from trades where you're trading more assets. And I think we've seen in the past a hesitancy from the Marlins to do that as well, especially doing multiple deals for multiple major league caliber bats. So yes, super positive, and I hope that remains the case even after the weekend and after the winter meetings. But from that high, it's been a slow sort of fall to where I am right now. But yeah, I would love to end this episode positively, but right now it's a struggle.
There will be some positive vibes, don't you worry. And for everyone listening, and there was a couple of tweets I had this morning saying, Pete, when's the episode dropping? You need to talk me down off the cliff. That kind of summed where things are up. I have to call out, though, right? Free agency it's just tough for the Marlins. They are, when I think back to last year and I think of the situation, these big name dudes, why would they? Like, why would you want to come and play in a library for half a year? No fans, no noise, no nothing. Like, that's hard. Baseball is such a drag. Day-to-day grind. Do we hear it, right? Imagine doing that with no fans, no buzz, no juice. Why would you want to do that? And an offensive, we're targeting offensive guys. We know the park is not great either for their offensive numbers. We know the team has stunk it out the last couple of years too, even though they thought they could be good. Like, it's a really tough sell to get these top names to want to commit because fundamentally, these guys, they either want to win or they want to pad their numbers so they can make even more dough. Well, they're not going to win, probably with the Marlins, and the numbers are going to take a hit. And they're going to be playing in front of no fans. Tough sell. Anyway, that's a reality check vibe for us. And we know that. They're the trading conditions, not trading as in physically, but they're the terms of business that the Marlins have. Players know what they're signing up to, and they're signing up to that. So the players really have to either buy into it or they're working at a tier where they check in with a player and actually no one else is checking in and there's no other market. And actually that's the only option the players have got. Because when we signed Soler and Avi Garcia, I'm not sure how much interest there really was, particularly for the numbers the Marlins were throwing around. So maybe they were competing with themselves on that one. I don't know, but they're the conditions we face. It's a tough spot, though, for Kim, right? I mean, that's the backdrops, what she's got to work with. Like, her product, in effect, that she's selling, it's a tough sell. Tough sell.
Absolutely. It is a case of, I mean, you see on Twitter and you see with the fans, it's always Kim this, Kim that. And, she is, as the GM, she is the face of the organization. And that's why the heat is directed at her. But ultimately, she's working under a number that she's given by Bruce to work with. And she can't then just go and, go an extra year, go an extra couple of million, because she knows the framework with which she's working from. So, yeah, it's a super tough job. I mean, GM of the Miami Marlins has always been a tough job as far as marketing the team, selling the team, acquiring players, attempting to win, because this is our second time round now with an owner that clearly is working on a low budget. That's just on what we've got to work with. And yeah, for Kim, it is super difficult. And it is a case of, as you said, with the ballpark, it's a big ballpark. That's why pitchers, I'm sure, would love to go there.
Yeah.
And offensively, it's tough to get. So yes, you need to draft and develop these hitters. And if you can't do that, and so far we've seen that they can't, but you can draft and develop pitching, then you need to trade that for hitting. And that is what we've been saying for 18 months to 2 years.
We have.
And now is the time where it has to happen. As an organization, they have to do it because the fan base at the moment, and it's a small but loyal fan base. It's starting to creak a little bit.
It is. It's creaking, mate. Here's what isn't creaking, though. Home security. So, are you? Firstly. And at Locked On Marlins, we believe home security should be where you and your family feel safest, especially over the holidays. This season, give yourself and your family the gift of peace and protection with the #1 rated home security system, Simply Safe, baby. And right now, Simply Safe is offering Locked On listeners 40% off a new security system, but don't put this one off. And here's why I love it. There's tons of reasons, but main ones. First off, whole home security system. Nearly knocked over my tree. Advanced sensors for every room, window, and door. HD security cameras inside and out. Smarter ways to detect motion that alert you only when that threat is real. Plus, they got 24/7 professional monitoring. And it's less than $1 a day, which is less than half the price of traditional home security systems. Sounds amazing. Don't miss your chance to save big on my favorite security system. 40% off any new system at simplysafe.com/lockedonmlb today. Reminder, safe.com/lockedonmlb. There's no safe like Simply Safe. Okay. Right then. So, free agency. It's not been kind thus far to the Marlins. I did want to briefly pick up on the Cody Bellinger thread, though, specifically because I do think that's an interesting one where it's been reported that the Marlins were actually in on Bellinger, checked in on him. He has gone and signed that 1-year deal, which is what he came out and said he's looking to do, which makes sense. He wants a prove-it deal, and he wants to return to MVP form and to blow it up and to sign a 10-year, $300 million. Makes sense. Goes back to what I said a few weeks back, mate, around if the Marlins were truly serious, they could have got Bellinger for a player to be named later. And okay, it would have cost them $18 million. Do you think that they were looking to get a deal done for 10 million or something on Bellinger? Like, do you think the Cubs got him 17.5 mil 1 year? Were the Marlins not in the right ballpark, do you think?
Yeah, I think it is a case of I expected, actually, to be fair, that 1 year deal would be at a smaller number, as it was. Bellinger pretty much earned what he would have done with a qualifying offer.
Yeah.
So that was interesting to me. The fact that it was 1 year and 1 year only, it wasn't 1 year with an option for a second year. I think he probably just went, I want to earn as much as I can in that 1 year. Let's not worry about the second year. And I'm going to bet on myself. And that is going to be an interesting storyline for the rest of the season. The Marlins, again, could, but probably, well, clearly they weren't going to go to that number. And if we're, again, talking about Kim and having this budget that she's aware of, she's got, that probably would have been the sum total of the budget. That's the max, isn't it? Yeah. And that doesn't factor in any more additions via trade, where the money is more. If you're trading from your prospects for a major league centre fielder, that centre fielder's earning money. So that takes away from that money, takes away from building the bullpen up. I don't expect them to spend a lot of money there, but they're going to have to spend some money. That money's not going to be zero. So I think it is a case of the number that Kim is working from could never have fitted in something like 18 million for Bellinger.
No. Felt high. Yeah, interesting they were in on the player, though. And I've always, people that listen to the show know I was not against taking that punt. Play center field, good defense, can play first base, lefty stick, kind of fits the profile of like what we actually need. Okay, it's had a couple of down years, but when you look at his like actual counting stats for last year, it would have blown away everyone anyway in counting stats for the Marlins. But let's talk about another Dodger, ex-Dodger, that definitely had some buzz. From Craig. Craig, typically isn't one to share names, I would say, unless there's a degree of interest maybe on both sides or something is brewing. Justin Turner, though, was, it sounds like there's a degree of interest there. Firstly, were you surprised at that one? And a second follow-up to that, how do you feel about it? And how would you feel at Justin Turner at third base on a 1 year, I don't know, $10 million deal or something?
Yeah, if that's a number, that'd be fantastic. The Dodgers walked away from a 16 million option. They paid him $2 million for that. So essentially they said they didn't want him for $14 million. So that's interesting. That probably sets his market in a certain degree. I think the only concerns that you can possibly have with him is that age. The year was slightly down year. 2.4 WAR. He hit well, but down on what he's used to doing. And when you see that and you see the age, that just gives me a pause for concern. But at 1 year, 10, 12, 2 years, at 24, that's doable. I think it's definitely an upgrade for the Marlins. It would be a case of you're going into the season knowing that he's going to take the lion's share at third base. You're giving Groshans some time. He's young. Let's not forget how young Groshans is. Yeah. Compared to Turner, he's massively young.
Yeah.
So going into the season, trusting that you're going to get 500 at-bats from him at a quality major league level, you can't trust that. You can hope for it, but you can't. I don't think you go into a season with that being your option. I think the Marlins do need more infield depth, and Turner for me is a consummate professional. His career is just, the numbers are amazing, and he would be a massive upgrade for the Marlins. And yeah, unfortunately, that's kind of where they are, isn't it? They're looking at the older guys, the guys that every other team have sort of moved on from. They're going for the star names, but unfortunately, as it is, the way the free agency market is, they're still going to have to spend a lot of money for him, because they're not going to get by with a super cheap contract, because any team out there are going to jump on that. I think Turner will earn the money he deserves, and the Marlins need to be competitive.
I completely agree with you, mate. Your assessment is absolutely bob on there, and we'll wait and see how things play out with Turner. It was a name that I hadn't actually thought of at all, mainly because we haven't been thinking about third base so much. I don't know why I'd kind of just assumed that there was going to be like a Wendell, LeBlanc, Groshans kind of boon of sorts, and that's maybe the way they were going to go. But here's what we're seeing now. They've tried on a couple of first basemen that we know of in free agency. They're talking to a third baseman. By all accounts, they were in on a middle infielder in Gleyber Torres at the deadline. They've been talking to the Pirates about Reynolds for multiple years now. Like, Kim's called it out. We're looking for 3 sticks, and I think she's probably underselling it. I think they're looking for 4 sticks, to be honest with you. I think they're actually looking to make a ton of moves. Clearly, there's some financial restrictions going on here, which is holding us back, because if all you can do is trade for these 4 sticks, then what's going to be left on the pitching side? Like, this is the thing, right? When you're in the trade-only market, you've got to give to get. And if you want good quality sticks, you're going to have to give good quality arms or, highly touted offensive prospects, i.e. Khalil Watson or Jacob Berry, depending on how you see them. So next thing is they're going to end up with, let's say they have to move Trevor Rogers, they have to move Edward Cabrera, plus maybe a few others that are in the minor leagues. You can see it happening already, can't you? A 3-man rotation all year where next thing is someone gets hurt, someone else is out of form, someone else gets hurt, and all of a sudden the rotation falls apart. Next thing is they can't pitch, the offense is medium, 69 wins. You could see it happening a mile off. Like, yes, there's talent there, and yes, there's pitching, but not to a degree where they can make, I think, 4 trades to get 4 legit major league hitters with just trading away arms. Like, I just don't see how the numbers stack up. What about you?
Yeah, and in that circumstance, you are almost going all in on these next couple of years on the players that you acquire, because let's not fool ourselves. If we're trading for multiple bats who are either pre-arb or in arbitration, I mean, how many of them do you expect the Marlins to extend? I mean, probably none of them. And then you've depleted the minor league system, and you've got this 3-year window, and then we're going to go through another rebuild. We're going to go through another fire sale. And I mean, I'd take it. I think that's the operating window that the Marlins have to work with. But I think that the Marlins, or at least the way they speak, they want to keep it, that regular conveyor belt of minor league players. And I think that's a smart way to do it. But if you want to acquire players and you want to go into this season trying to be competitive, then yes, there is a circumstance where you have to add 1 or 2 bats or from the bullpen via free agency, and that's going to cost money. And it is that case of, I think that's why Marlins fans are so up in arms at the moment.
Yeah.
Because they're seeing that the only viable way for the team to build a competitive team in the market that it is in at the moment is to spend. And we've seen precious little evidence that they want to, that they're willing to, and that goes back decades.
Yeah. This is it. You can't add 4 staff to spend. And the problem is the guys that we were looking at are maybe starting to dwindle away. So next thing is you're spending on a coin flip. Are they going to have an Avi Garcia year? Are they going to be a Curtis Granderson? I mean, okay, that's a bit of an extreme example, but when aging vet on a 1-year deal, see what happens. Who knows what way they're going to go? But they have to spend some dough, in my opinion. What are the odds on that happening? Get over to Bet Online and find it out. That is the way, because they always have you covered. And it's the number 1 source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. You can get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there. From football to basketball to soccer and esports, they've got it all at betonline.net. And they are, of course, the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. You can head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. Shaun, I just wanted to finish this one up here in the next couple of minutes. Going back to the point you made there around going all in. And based on what is happening in the division right now, in the pretty much, the Mets are looking to continue to extend their window. Like, they feel like their window's open because of what they've done and the spending they've had. Yes, DeGrom has got with Verlander. Scherzer's there too. They're looking to throw money at it to extend it. The Phils, they've thrown a ton of dough. The Braves are well positioned anyway and well set up in terms of a lot of the talent is locked up. They need to add a few, and they will add a few. There's 3 really strong teams in there. Should the Marlins just, strategically, long term, should they just look to slow play this right now? And just think, do you know what? Our window, because of this division, I don't think is viable. And should we actually just slow play it? We'll PR spin it so people think we're trying. And I think that's maybe where people's heads are going now, really, where it always feels like, hey, the Marlins are in the hunt, but they never actually execute on anything. I don't know. I don't know if that's how they're feeling, and they shouldn't be feeling that way with Sandy and the rotation because they've done so much. But there has to be a bit of that in there, right? Because they can't just throw everything at this, knowing what the division looks like and their limited free agent budget.
Yeah, I mean, the only issue with that is the Mets, clearly, their window is, in my opinion, forever open.
Forever, yeah.
With their desire to spend. I mean, at the moment, they've blown through every single cap that there is. And now every dollar that they spend, they've got to spend essentially that. I think it's a 90% tax now. And guess where that money will be going? Straight into Bruce's pocket. They are willing to spend so much money that their window is open. The Phillies at the moment seem to be spending in a similar vein. The Braves, as you said, they've got multiple guys locked up for the future, and they just keep doing that. They keep finding these guys. They keep locking them up early because they can afford to take that risk. If you look at the Marlins with Jazz right now, it would make if Jazz was a Brave, he'd be extended already.
Agreed.
Because they can take the risk that if it doesn't pan out, then they can just they can just sweep that money under the rug. Marlins can't do that. If they pay Jazz like when we were talking about BA, if they paid BA and then we saw what happened with his final years in the Marlins, they would have regretted that. And I'm not saying that they would regret paying Jazz. I think he's a star, and I think he's gonna make it. But the Marlins can't take that risk of spending the money and then being left with that on the books because they just can't. They won't afford that in their budget. So I think it is a case of, yes, it would be nice to say, just hold off for these teams to fall away. I just don't see it happening. No. And right now, when you're looking at a team that have done, as you keep saying, they've done the hard work. They've got the pitching. They've got Sandy paid up, locked in the eighth role. They've done the hard work. Now they need to just build a team around that. And there is no reason why they can't do that other than that they just aren't willing to spend just a little bit of money. Because we're not asking for 30 million a year free agents. We're not asking for them to blow the books apart. We're just asking for a little bit of money.
Yeah.
And that shouldn't be too much to ask for an organization that, well, in a sport that prints money.
Literally is printing money right now. Which is wild. Shaun, get the crystal ball out, or whatever it is you have to hand there. Let's look ahead. For me, the winter meetings, it's about the free agents. Is kind of my take on things. It's about getting some of these free agent deals done, which then starts to shape what happens next. The dominoes all start going. The Giants were all in on Judge. Next thing is they've missed out on him. Right? Okay, where's the pivot? What's the pivot move for them? There was guys in on Verlander. There was guys in on DeGrom. Didn't make it happen. Where you pivoting to? So this is kind of, for me, like Kim would have been there getting the groundwork set. Now, what are you looking for? If this doesn't happen, what are you thinking? All these kind of conversations, I think, are going on, and players are starting to be kind of talked about who's available, who's not, et cetera, et cetera. So, long-winded way of saying, what we seeing here? What are you thinking? Where the Marlins actually going to turn to? What kind of names do you see actually happening here in the Marlins acquiring? Let's say they get 3 sticks. They get Kim's wish, 3 sticks. I actually think they need 4, but let's just go with Kim's view of 3 sticks. What do you think those sticks could look like by the time we hit spring training? I think
the center fielder or the outfield bat that they go for has to be the trade. It makes too much sense. It's got to be a guy like Reynolds, who we know now doesn't want to play for the Pirates. You know,
Does he want to play for the Marlins? Well, he doesn't have a choice if he gets traded. But
and I can't remember where I heard it, but it would be a perfect scenario where you don't want to play for us because we're not going to be competitive. Well, there you go, off to the Marlins, where you also probably won't be competitive either.
It would be spiteful, wouldn't it?
It really would, and to be honest, I mean, if it works out in the Marlins' benefit, I'd be well up for it.
Yeah.
I think.
What's the percentage on Reynolds for you, mate? Because I know we haven't spoken about him directly because of the way we haven't recorded together since that news broke. Like in your head right now, percentage-wise, Reynolds to the Marlins, what are you thinking?
I mean, it's less than 10% because
less than 10. Holy,
because
moly.
I just don't have that confidence. It should be 90 because there's nothing that's stopping them.
Yeah,
they have.
The fit is 90. The fit's 90, right?
The fit is 90. They have the trade assets to do it.
Yeah,
and that's why it's so obvious. I think that sort of corner infielder. I mean, we talked about Christian Walker in an add-on in a trade for one of their many outfield center fielders in Arizona. I think that would be a nice fit. That would be two birds with one stone. And again, talking about the idea of we need to add multiple bats, but we don't want to make massive trades. You could probably get two guys for a Pablo or Trevor Rogers plus a small middling prospect to attack onto that.
Yeah,
there really isn't much in the way of interesting corner infielders on the free agency market beyond Turner. So whether or not that
Ryan Anderson's out there, by the way.
Yes, so was Lewin Diaz as well if they want to give him a major league contract, but I just don't see it happening. I mean, Jesus Aguilar's out there as well.
Aggie's out there, yes, sir.
That would be a nice minor league invite with a guaranteed contract if he's brought up kind of deal. But
wouldn't it be?
You can't say we're looking for 3 or 4 sticks and have those kind of guys be the guys that you bring in because you're not actually doing anything in reality. I know a lot of people want a middle infielder. I don't see it personally. I don't see the Marlins going out there and adding to that. I think if they do want to add someone into the mix, then they're going to be trading away Miggy, and that would be a good way to balance the books a little bit because at 5.5 for Miggy? That's a lot of money in the Marlins budget. So that would be an interesting topic. I think I'm in the keep Miggy sort of fold, and it's a small fold.
It is,
but there's many ways for the team to build a team that would excite me, a team that would actually get me excited in spring training that they've got a chance without much money being spent. I mean, if Turner was the only free agent added that actually was given a major league contract, and then they did a trade for a big name or big prospect outfielder, I think that would work as far as getting Marlins fans excited and get us out of this quagmire that we're currently in.
We're in a quagmire, no doubt about it. It's been very, very tough. The general vibe on Twitter is not good. Mainly it's born out of jealousy because of the action, but it's more born out of just what seemingly looks like the lack of inactivity and the fact that we've checked in on everyone and haven't closed anyone. It's like my day job, to be honest with you. You're making cold calls for days, but not closing a thing. That's kind of the way it goes. But anyway, I'm just going to throw some names out there because I've been dwelling on this too. So this is the optimistic view, not the super optimistic that is out there. The super optimistic was sign Correa, and Correa is unfortunately not going to happen. And I think everyone understands that too when I'm a little bit of fun. But my realistic, and this is, in my opinion, realistic, my realistic upgrades for 4 sticks. I'm going to give you the 4 names. We're going to ink Justin Turner in there at third base /DH. Like, he'll kind of flick between those 2 spots. So Justin Turner is 1. We have to get a first baseman. It has to be done. And we're going to have to now, I think, trade for one. And I'm going to say they go and get CJ Cron from the Rockies. So I'm going to put Cron in there, which is a risk. I also like Rowdy Tellez as well, the lefty stick. So, but I'm gonna go with Cron. I think maybe the Brewers think they actually can do something now, where I thought they were selling and Maybe they aren't now. Then what are we doing in the outfield? This is where things get interesting. Alec Thomas, I'm sticking with that. I've liked the profile ever since we looked at it. The defense is great. The minor league numbers are immense. Yes, it's been a bit of a slow start at the major league level, but the profile fits. Alec Thomas is there. The fourth stick, so just to recap on this already, Justin Turner, a first baseman, CJ Cron perhaps, Alec Thomas, and the fourth name, Brian Reynolds. They go and get two outfielders and absolutely shock the world. Reynolds is there for the taking. The Marlins can make this happen. And frankly, the Pirates would love to send him to Miami. I think they do. I think the Marlins get Alec Thomas as well. And they absolutely blow it up there. First base, third base, Miggy sticks around, Jazz in there in the middle infield with them. And let's roll. And with that, Shaun, that 4 plus what we already have, if they're all healthy, would that excite you heading into 23?
It would. I mean, it's such a low bar for the Marlins to get me excited. Because
Justin Turner would have excited you, and that's it. Call it a day.
I've got excited for. I mean, woof. The funny thing is, it is that case of like, you look at those 4 guys, you know, you're looking at a second tier free agent that wants 1 to 2 years at 10, 12 million. It's not a lot of money, is it, in the grand scheme of things?
No.
Cron, you're not going to be trading something massive. You're going to be trading, you know, a top 10 prospect, maybe, you know, around that area. Sort of.
Not even that, mate. I'm telling you, Cron is a low cost guy. I'm pretty sure he was like picked up on waivers or something at one point. Like he's, you know.
But what I mean is, it's a guy that's 9, 10, 11 on your prospect list. It's not a guy that's going to, you know, set your minor league system back years.
No.
And then you're looking at 2 guys that are going to cost you 2 pitchers. So you're looking at one of Pablo or Trevor, because I don't think you could trade both of them.
No.
And then you're piecing away one of your top tier prospects as well, starting prospects, which again is going to hurt. But you've then built a team that is one that it's not just that you could get excited about. It's a team that you could genuinely go into the season and believe that come the deadline, there will be competitive baseball games happening in Miami. And that's, you know, it's just not something we're used to. And it's a team that doesn't cost a lot of money. And it's a team that wouldn't set your minor league system back massively, and it wouldn't hurt your starting pitching rotation so much that you're concerned that it's going to take a step back. So these are the kind of moves that the Marlins can make. They can make many other moves, they just choose not to. But this is something that they could actually realistically do, and it would be a team that would be a fun team.
It would be. I also think, to be honest with you, those, you know, the bigger teams, because of the starting pitching starts to dry up now, and there's like clear needs for starting pitching of all, like even the money can't buy what isn't available on the free agent market. Like the studs have gone. There's teams that still have a massive need, that are massive teams that were in the playoffs last season and went pretty far. The Dodgers remain, they have a need, in my opinion. They've got about 58 long relievers. The Yankees still have a need. You know, there's tons of teams out there, big teams, that have needs from a pitching perspective. The Blue Jays still have a need. You know, I'm a little bit unclear about what the Blue Jays are kind of doing at the moment, to be honest, with moving away Teoscar Hernandez, and they're trying to sell a catcher or two. And I'm intrigued to see what they do. But the point I'm trying to make is, like I said, you can't buy what isn't there. So you've now got to trade for it. And all of a sudden, the Marlins are sitting there with the trade assets. No one's really selling pitching, like trading major league pitching, really. There isn't tons of it available. So the Marlins sit there, and it's how can they leverage those deals? So that's the optimistic vibe for me, mate, is the Marlins need to play the long game with this. Let the market really thin and then maximize their assets, not jump on anything. The problem I see with like the Reynolds situation is, if the Pirates are going to be forced into selling Reynolds and they're still absolutely terrible, like I'm not convinced we're the best of fit trade partners wise. But all of a sudden, like a Dodgers and Yankees that are like, hey, we need pitching and we need it now. We need a 3. The Marlins can absolutely serve up a 3. And those guys, I think, have got enough prospects or major league guys on, you know, that could really float the Marlins boat, in my opinion. So I don't think we should completely rule that one out. And I'd love to say we shouldn't rule out Carlos Correa to the Marlins, because I do believe that would be an absolutely sensational fit. It really would. And this is the frustrating thing, Shaun, for me, where if you took money out of it and you looked at a team and the way it's built right now and a free agent out there and go, right, what would be the perfect match? The Marlins and Carlos Correa, for me, are the perfect match right now. I don't think there's another free agent out there that is a better match that would kind of supercharge this team in a way. I don't know. Am I missing anyone? But for me, the Correa fit.
For on the field only, I would say Nimmo is up there as well. I think he fits two spots. He fits that centre field and he fits that leadoff spot. But as far as a token to the fans, Correa would be that real boost of, look, we are going to try, we are going to spend. Yeah. And you are right. It is again that case of could, but won't.
Yeah, exactly. Could but won't. Good way to finish it. We're going to leave it there for today. Thanks to the UK GOAT, Shaun Barrett. Good to have him back in the saddle. I think it's been at least over a week since you were on, Shaun. So that's been way too long for us. So great to have you back. Guys, what I would say is stay positive. I can see a pathway to the Marlins getting a lot better. We just have to let all this free agent stuff get out the way. Maybe pick up the odd guy along the way, but then let Kim cook with the trade, calculator the trade market. I can still see her upgrading this team. And that's the thing. All the messaging has changed now. Skip Schumacher's talking about it. Kim's talking about it. They're looking to upgrade, and I think they will. With that being said, thanks for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Peter Pratt. Shaun Barrett as well, signing out. Be back tomorrow.